approve the purchase of 2018 Special Fire Command Truck in the amount of $67,718.94 from Reliable Chevrolet through the Tarrant County Purchasing Program.
That's really just a regular Tahoe or Cadillac Escalade.
Yeah, it's a regular Tahoe and it's not really meant to. And this is, moving forward, this is what I've been looking for in the future is to, okay, I mean, this, you know, we're growing. We got more oil field, you know, to deal with out in the lease roads and county roads. And it's just turning up our vehicles because they're not meant for that kind of use. And so, it's more of a heavy duty package vehicle.
I agree with you with the trucks we have in my company. The mechanics came to leave, we could carry them out the truck, but I second that.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Chayes and a second by Councilman Arona to approve item number F3 as presented and read. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Let the record show the motion carries. Chief, would you like to also share what's sitting outside?
We brought our new brush truck and it's out there to, you know, we just got it, 2 days before Thanksgiving, so, there's a picture of it. It's pretty heavy duty, it's big, 1,500 gallons, you know, fight brush fires out there. We got some equipment we put on there, but it's probably one of the first kinds of brush truck that, you know, I think some people around the area are gonna be impressed with, you know, when they look at us, you know, in this truck, and so, you know, we got
California with it?
I'm sorry? You know, fortunately, it's not under a grant with the Texas Forest Service, because it is, then sometimes if they have a use for it, they'll come and say, hey, since y'all brought it through the grant, then it needs to go to California or wherever. So fortunately, it wasn't bought through a grant, so. But yeah, we're, you know, if we can assist someone, if we have manpower.
That's a key word.
Well, it looks nice sitting out there, and congratulations. I know it's been a while since you had a new vehicle, so.
We appreciate all the
Picture
support.
doesn't do it justice, that thing's massive.
Yeah.
Yes, it's humongous.
I was very sure that uncles fill it up when a company vehicles in the pool left, and I'm like, good luck, we need it, we need it.
And just to throw this out there, I talked to Heather yesterday and asked, can I get a ladder truck? She said, talk to the consuls. You know, that might be coming up.
Don't run over the building with it.
And if we wait another year, it's gonna be more expensive. I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Chief.
But we appreciate it.
Okay, item number F11, discuss abandoning right-of-way on Meadowbrook Street. Mr. Sorensen?
Mayor and Council, Ms. Brenda McKinney, the hospital administrator, is also here to answer questions. Realizing that this was intended to be a discuss, consider, but because of busy schedules, we just discussed today. So we wanted to just bring this to the council. I want to preface this by saying that I believe that the plan that the hospital is proposing is the smart way to go, and I support their proposal. And that proposal is to shut down Meadowbrook and have that all included as part of their new hospital campus, rather than trying to have a. I'm not sure what kind of pictures we've got, but you know, rather than having two very long buildings that are separated by a street with traffic and everything else, it makes more sense to have it be a campus to accomplish that. And so we've discussed some of the mutual concerns of things that we need to resolve in order to move forward, including our sewer line that we have in place there. There's also fiber optic line that's going to have to be worked on. We've also discussed the mineral rights that the city will retain as part of this, as well as replatting it at the courthouse. I'll turn the time over to Ms. McKinney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilman. What I just passed out to you, for those of you that may not know, the hospital district is fully engaged in this big project that we've begun. I have with me tonight also a couple of people I'd like to introduce. Yvette Riker, she's my CFO. She may be coming before y'all at the next meeting to discuss this further. Also, Bruce Crawford, he's our owner's rep for our project, and Wesley Bowen, he is the project manager. What the hospital district is doing, we are moving forward to build a brand new hospital facility, if you do not know. We purchased the land from the PEDC last year. After 2 years of trying to get this done, we finally accomplished it, thanks to Mr. Ken Winkles and all his hard work. So this is as everybody said, this is a very exciting time in Reeves County and Pecos, and we are taking full advantage of it as well. The building we're in is 40 years old, so we feel like it's time to build a new facility. So we're proposing to build a new hospital right across from the clinic, so that we have this hospital campus that will all flow together right in the middle of where our clinic is and where the hospital, what we'd like to put, is Meadowbrook. Now, I'm here to discuss because I'm not sure if there's an easement there, if there's a right-of-way there. I'm not real sure, but.
Yellow line there.
Yes, sir. And, a lot of dirt, but on that yellow line, but, you know, this is a big investment for the hospital district. I think it's gonna be a great thing that we're doing for Reeves County and the citizens of Pecos, Texas. And so, we're investing a lot of money in this project. Well, that we don't know yet quite, Mr. Moon, but let me assure you, it's a lot of money. More than really I expected, but that's okay. So we are coming to the council to discuss what it is that we need to do. We're not even sure, to tell you the real truth, if there's an easement, a right-of-way, actually who owns the street. So, but as you can see in this diagram, the land that we purchased is a little over 7 acres, but it's a long, narrow strip of land. And the campus that we're proposing to build is between 115 and 140,000 square feet. We currently, in the facility we're at, we're not up to code on some things, but we've been grandfathered because of the age of our facility and our hospital district. So we want to allow ourselves room to grow, because as we've heard from everybody that's presented to us today that we listened to, there's potentially lots of growth in this area. So we want to be able to position this building and still allow room for growth. Of course, we have to have so much parking per beds, and there's a lot to take into consideration. So we're here to discuss to see what the council could propose doing for us. But I don't know, Mr. Sorensen, if you're for sure it's just an easement, or do you have knowledge?
Based off of the survey that you showed me today, it is right of way, and some of our historical documentation of when the EDC realigned those streets also shows it being dedicated right of way as Meadowbrook. And so we do have a sewer line in there that we'll have to work around, and we've discussed that.
Well, when you say work around, you mean cap it off on each end and go somewhere else with it?
Possibly.
Your other lines?
Possibly.
What other lines did you talk about?
And depending on how it fits into the site plan of the hospital, it may need to be rerouted, it may not need to be, they might be able to fit it in. We'll or at least I would strongly recommend that we reserve an easement despite abandoning the right-of-way, so that we can continue to have sewer serving in that. This is the line, from my understanding, that services the new pilot as well as the rest of the businesses that are along 17 there. So we'll have to find a new way for it to flow, but that's what engineers are for.
Anything we can do?
So I guess, you know, we're asking that you abandon the right-of-way. Sounds like you're wanting to keep the easement.
We'll need to, again, depending on how the building is situated, we'll have to have some sort of easement. If it's able to stay there, despite abandoning the right-of-way, we would retain an easement if the line stays in place. And what that means, rather than being right-of-way where it's owned by the city, the property is owned by the hospital, we simply have the rights to get on there to maintain the line.
Because what we're proposing is our building could flow over onto what should be Meadowbrook, is not Meadowbrook. We could flow over, correct, gentlemen?
And that's where the rerouting of the line will come into the
That's what you
conversation.
need to look at. What's gonna be there, and whether or not it needs to be rerouted.
And
All
we'll,
doable.
you know, we're willing to do whatever we need to because this project's that important to us and the way we need to place this building, for future growth. You know, we're willing to do whatever needs to be done.
We're just trying to work together, all entities, so we need to get on board and do what we can, working together,
Thank you,
moving forward.
appreciate that.
I'd still like to see a map of our existing infrastructure.
So would I.
We found a big water line at our property over there. When we put the power poles in, the guy come in, filled the hole for the power pole. Oh, there's where the water line
I'd
is.
like to avoid that. Do you know, Mr. Sorensen, is there a current easement for that? Do you know?
By the nature of being right of way, there's not a separate easement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judy, do you know
Yeah,
of anything
Mayor,
exactly
Council,
running through there?
when the hospital approached the public board, hearing myself, we actually did a study, and we have a sewer line. And it is a possibility to abandon the line from the apartments going east. And we can reroute the sewer line going north from the apartments if we got an easement, and then going east all the way to the intersection of Stafford and Delaware. Picnic. Yeah, we actually did a survey, Gary and myself. And the only thing is just the sewer line. We talked to the hospital, and they willing to rewire.
Is there a fiber optic in
Yes, ma'am, it's a fiber optic on that street too.
Unfortunately, that's not ours.
Yeah. But it's a possibility to rewire. We already checked the elevations and everything, and it works.
Mayor, if the city retained a right-of-way for that sewer line, they could work with
But
the
their easement.
easement, then the city could continue to work with the hospital, and if they needed to reroute things, we would just abandon that easement and get a new easement for wherever the new sewer line would go. So it would, the city also has to have the easement for the line, but it might not be in that location. We would work with
It
it.
wouldn't be feasible. If their building's gonna go over part of that line, we don't want it under.
No, we do not. Absolutely not.
Well, thank y'all very much. I understand this is just a discuss item, so would you like to come back at your next meeting and maybe put it as an action item and see if we can work together for this great project that's gonna benefit everybody in this community? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Like, we asked you something else on which ones we done, which ones we have. Okay, I think we are up to item number F8. Presentation of the WWTP options report, Mr. Sorensen.
Mayor and Council, this will be a shorter presentation. WWTP, those of us who abbreviate more than we should. Wastewater treatment plant. The City Council, several months back, as we were looking at how we're going to treat our wastewater to account for growth, to be able to send it to the river, to be able to reuse the water, we had presented an option to use biodomes. And the council asked that we go back and we take a deeper look at that, see if that was really the best option, see if that was going to fit our needs for the future growth that we have going. And so we retained KSA Engineering, who went back and did that. And the criteria that we had given KSA is we don't have the personnel to run a full-blown plant because we have a hard enough time hiring as it is. But we need the solutions that are expandable, that can grow with us. And so we narrowed it down in a conversation to 3 types of technologies. One is called a sequential batch reactor, SBR. Basically, they're pods that treat it, and as you need to expand growth, you create another pod. Another one is called the oxidation ditch, which basically looks like a big running track. These work. They're a little bit harder to get permitted because you're subject to just the nature of it. They also take up a lot of land in order to have, and it's just as expensive as the SBR option. The third was the biodomes, which we also looked at once again. Since this report has been done, some other things have happened. One of which is that the company that produces the biodomes has received a private grant that they're willing to extend to us in the amount of $500,000. This still leaves us with the same issues that we were concerned with about the ability to expand and to be able to trade it to send it to the river. But that is an option that's on the table right now, that it would be $500,000 cheaper. Another thing that has happened since then is we have been approached by a company that would be interested in coming in and building a plant on their dime and running the plant. And the city would, it would be the public-private partnership where the city would lease it back or rent it from them, or some sort of financial option. I throw that out because we know that regardless of which option we choose, we're likely going to either have to save up money for a few years or else bond.
Don't say that, don't use that word.
Well, and that's why having a private company come in sounds really attractive, is you get away from that. All of these options.
Let me interject something.
Oh, please.
Didn't we spend $2 or $3 million putting a pipeline into the, honey hole, or whatever you wanna call it over there? The thing ain't that deep.
With water.
We never even
We had
tried
it,
the potential of that.
we had it full for a little while. And
Wasn't
then we
that
started
30
selling water.
inches of rain, or what?
No, we were sending wastewater there, and then we started selling the wastewater. And so that thing
Good
has been
idea.
sucked right, it's a wonderful
I
idea.
wish you'd have hollered at me so I could go see it full. I've been there multiple times. I've never seen nothing that you couldn't wade through. You held your nose.
So we have started selling that, and we can discuss our opinions on that project at another time. But we're in a situation now where that's an option where private companies are looking at us. Besides the money part of it, with the bonding issue, is we are at the 75% mark of capacity of our existing plant. And so what that means is TCEQ has two rules. One is called 75% rule, one's the 90% rule, very original titles. At the 75%, you have to start planning for expansion. We are down 2 units at the prison, and we are at 75%. So if those come back online, we are pretty close to that 90%. So we are needing to move forward with a solution, regardless of what is chosen. The result of this report, based on our criteria of being able to handle it with minimal manpower, the ability to expand, keeping costs down below a full mechanical plant, the recommendation that was presented and that Chewy, he left, and Gary and myself have discussed, we feel that it is the right option, is the sequential batch reactor. This is a conversation that we're going to need to continue to have because we are at that 75%, but we did want to present to you this report and give it to you, which you should have in your packet. We'll gladly get you hard copies if you'd like to peruse through it, if you have trouble sleeping at night. But we wanted to present it to you so that you knew that we do have the results back, we do have an idea of potential directions that we can go, and we'll be looking at that in the coming months.
If they say plan at 75%, what do they say at 90?
You have to be under construction.
The money we spent putting together the elaborate cesspool we have, we could have had a mechanical.
I don't disagree. But we didn't know then what we know now.
Well, some of us did.
I didn't, I wasn't here.
Going in here. I was against that thing from the beginning.
And the other thing that changed was after we put in that pipeline, then TCEQ granted us the permission to discharge into the river.
Now, they revoked that.
No, we have our permit to go to the river.
We passed their.
We just can't meet the effluent levels with our current setup. One of the, I'll just throw this out as one more little tidbit. The company that has approached us, the technology that they're proposing is called a membrane system, and there's a whole bunch of other words in there, but it's a membrane system, and what that means is that they're producing really high-quality water. And in Texas, we can put 25% of that back into our water system. And because it's going to be very high quality, the other 75% could be sold, and we might never need to send it to the river until everyone's done fracking, which hopefully is not for 50 years.
Well, right now, water is a valuable commodity.
It is, and so if we
Like was
can,
alluded to earlier, the technology, I know several oil companies that, they've had trouble getting rid of their produced water, spending a lot of money hauling it, pumping it, treating it. But the technology, and a lot of them are using it right now, they're taking it right, building little plants on site, treating it, and going right back in, fracking, or whatever else they need the water for.
I think that's a page we should steal
I think
out of
so.
their playbook. Any questions?
On that new system, will we still be using our own lagoons? I'm just curious.
So with the SBR, it would be a hybrid. So we would continue to use the lagoons, mostly as storage. So basically, everything would flow into our lagoons, or at least the new lagoons that are lined. The old lagoons that are not lined, we would probably mothball them somehow. But it would flow into there as an equalization basin, then it would come through the SBR, and next time I'll bring a cool video that shows the SBR technology of what it does. It goes up, it goes down, it comes out treated. It's wonderful. But yeah, we would be able to continue to use that if it's a hybrid. Same with obviously the other two options. The biggest problem with the oxidation ditch, again, is the size that it takes, and because of that size, expanding it to double capacity, we're running out of land over there by the wastewater plant.
I don't know, I worked for the city when I was quite a bit younger, not this, other bit. And I was in a job comparable to what Gary's doing. And we had a setup kind of like what we got here, only we didn't have dirt holding tanks with plastic liners. We had cement with a sloped edge at one end. And as we went through our ponds, we'd dry them up and take a loader and scoop it up, put it on dump trucks, haul it out to the hay fields and whatever, and had a reusable system unlike what we have here. Just don't think a lot of thought went into what we've done with this.
Okay, item number F10, discuss, consider adopting bylaws for the tax increment reinvestment district number 1 board. Mr. Cotton?
Yes, Mayor and Council, these bylaws have been drafted by our lawyer in Houston, Tim Austin, with Allen Boone, Humphreys, and Robinson. He created them as sort of standard TERS bylaws. The tax increment reinvestment zone directors would follow the bylaws. I know y'all just got them today. Y'all can review them and comment on them. I talked to Mr. Winkles, if he had a couple of comments and suggestions on them. We can bring them back to y'all at the next meeting for y'all to approve them. But basically, it's the TERS board will act as the board that will decide the object of the projects that the TERS may do. The TERS, if the TERS decides to do a project, if they want to improve a street or they want to improve a neighborhood or do something, they would recommend that. But the function of spending money and the function of setting taxes would always be coming back to the city council, because y'all have, that's y'all's obligation. So, but the TERS board will serve an important function, and as Pecos grows and the TERS gets used more, I think it will be pretty active. The TERS board will basically work closely with the local government corporation, the LGC, because that's where bonds would be issued. Remember that the TERS may decide that the TERS may want to do a project within the TERS zone, and if the TERS wanted to issue debt, the debt might be issued by the local government corporation as opposed to the city. But once again, that would be a decision that would come back to the council for a final decision. So, But the bylaws as presented are basically setting up with five members of the TERS board. 2 more members would be appointed by other entities, taxing entities, that participate in it. The city manager acts as the executive secretary and takes the notes. And other than that, it'll be run relatively like other boards that we have here in Pecos. Yeah.
I make a motion that we postpone action on adopting the bylaws for taxing reinvestment district 1, until further.
And these two, the company, that are after that, that's review. Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Moon, a second by Councilman Arona to postpone item number F10 for time to review. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Let the record show the motion carries. I need a break.